guys, and welcome back to a new Dawn. I am Dawn, and this is part 2 of inviting the monster in. So if you are new here, thank you for joining. If you have been here before, thank you so much for coming back. So I do use my platform to talk about my own personal experiences with domestic violence and abuse, with digital stalking, with being a survivor of that. It is really a healing process for me, but my goal is always to just provide information. There are national programs, advocacy agencies that are ready and willing to help you get out of your situation safely. Know that you can do it. Reach out to your family if you haven't already, someone that you trust, someone that you can confide in, to help you get yourself into a safe space. And just know that there's life after the abuse. You can get through it. You deserve better than it, and it's not your fault. So with that being said, I am going to dive into part 2 again of inviting the monster in. So in my previous videos, I kind of talked about the end. In my last video, I left off in Dallas, where he and I lived for a year. Sometimes I blame myself because I hadn't been in a relationship or very many. I just wanted to be in a relationship so badly that I accepted a lot of foolishness, a lot of nonsense, a lot of disrespect that I never would have accepted from anybody. But I was just so desperate to be in a relationship that I just accepted a lot of things. I also was in a place in my life where I was vulnerable and I was lonely, and my biological clock was ticking. I was in my late 30s when I met him. So, I just felt like the opportunities are getting slimmer and slimmer and slimmer. So, I just accepted a lot of things that I normally would not have. I dealt with a lot of stuff secretly and in private because I was embarrassed, and because I had moved so quickly with the relationship. In the beginning, my pride, I didn't want to tell anybody, you probably was right. I probably shouldn't have jumped into this thing so quickly. I probably should have taken some time to actually get to know this person before I decided to make him my partner, before I decided to move in with him, and before I decided to relocate to another city with this guy, right? By the time I decided to relocate to another city, I was already knee deep in garbage. I was knee deep into the bullshit by the time I decided to move with him. And this is the memory that I really wanted to discuss, was deciding to relocate with this guy. Okay. Probably should have left his ass right in Dallas, but I didn't. So again, buckle up, grab your drinks, grab your popcorn. You don't have to watch, but have your listening ears on because it's gonna get interesting. So let's get into it. So relocating. All right. When we were in Dallas, Dallas wasn't what's up. Not with this guy. I desired to have a family so bad that at that moment, that was the person who came along and fed me what I wanted to hear. And I just went with it. And I had the blinders on. I had my sights so focused on having a family. And I'll be honest with y'all, it started with having a family. It started with having a husband and then children. And then it quickly went to fuck the husband. I just want the children, right? And if this is the source, if this is how I'm going to get my children, then so be it. I'll deal with the consequences of that later, but let me just get the kids, right? This is crazy talk, okay? But this is just where my head was at. So I would tell people all the time after the fact, like after I left and after I was shared the fact that I had been in this abusive relationship, I would tell people that things were great when we were in Dallas, but it was a whole ass lie. It wasn't great when we were in Dallas. I had fun with him. I did have a companion to an extent. I had someone who was company for me to an extent. I had someone who was a built-in friend to an extent because he was there. He was, unfortunately, he was dick in the house. I mean, and I hate to put it like that, but at the time I was going through it, I never would have said that. In hindsight, that's absolutely what the heck it was, because it really was no more than that. I mean, if I take the blinders off and look at the entire relationship from my perspective now, from the start to the finish, it literally was just D in the house. A lot of other garbage came along with that D in the house. So anyway, Dallas wasn't great. My career was taken off, however. So I had relocated to Dallas for work, and going back to this tumultuous situation that I was in, I was under attack at work. I had a handful of associates who just didn't like me and accused me of doing a lot of things that I did not and was not and never did. And they did it on repeat. So they just, one time after another time after another time, they just called HR and made a complaint on me. There was an investigation, and then that thing was documented as unfounded, and then it would close out, and then they would call HR again, and then there would be an investigation, and then it would be unfounded, and then it would be closed out, and then they would have their friend call HR again about this thing, and it was on repeat. It just kept happening over and over and over and over and over again. I stopped counting at 15. So it was massive. It was a lot. And it was on, like, literally it was on repeat. And again, all these things were unfounded. So it did something to me. I was getting bummed out. I was like, it's not worth it to me anymore. I was making good money. I love my job. I love what I was doing. Outside of that subgroup of people who were attacking me, I had a great team. I was traveling back and forth from Dallas to Houston all the time. I was in San Antonio. My team was all over. I had been down to Corpus. I was back and forth to Houston and Dallas all the time, and I just loved it. I mean, I was like single. I was loving it. I was living a good, perfect life, right? I met him, and all of this was going on at work. And, you know, my grandmother was sick. She had a stroke and she was sick and in the hospital. My other grandmother had Alzheimer's. She was battling with that. So, and they were in Ohio. So I wasn't close to home. I wasn't close to my family. So I was just getting into this space where things just were not good. And when I met him, I just wanted some company. I just wanted somebody to be nice to me, and I wanted to hang out. And it just turned into a relationship. And like I said, it wasn't good when I was in Dallas, but I was already in it. And I had my eyes laser focused on having a kid. So that's what kept me there. So with all that happening, I had decided I need to find something else. Like, I cannot stay in this job. I need to find something else to do. At this point, I felt like I have some skills. I can do another job within the company and, you know, just move on to something else, right? So I had started looking, and I didn't actually tell anybody I was looking. One day, another team that I used to work really closely with, the vice president of that particular department, approached me, and she told me that she essentially had been admiring my work and my work ethic from afar, right? So she had an opening on her team for a manager, and she was looking to hire someone from within the company and wanted to know if I would be interested. And of course I was like, heck yeah, you don't know I was looking for a job. So yeah. So what ended up happening, just a very long story short, I interviewed for that position. Someone else from her team applied. she gave the position to that person. That person's job became open. A couple other people quit. So there was like 3 openings on the team to do something else. It wasn't the manager's position, but it was an opportunity to work with that team in a different capacity. They approached me again, the new manager now and the VP, and were like, please apply to this position because we still would love to have you over here. I applied to that position. There were 3 openings. They selected 3 individuals and none of them were me. That manager told me, here's the reason why I selected these other 3 individuals and not you. However, we have this exact same team in Houston. We've been looking for someone to fill this position for a very long time, and we feel like you would be a good fit. Would you be interested? And she said, I noticed your resume said that you would be willing to relocate. And I was like, it does say that, doesn't it? I think I forgot about that when I was applying. I was willing to relocate. I was by myself, but I was in this relationship with this guy. And so I thought to myself, and I said 2 things to her. Number 1, I would consider moving if the money is right. And number 2, let me just consult with my partner, right? When I applied to the job, I wasn't thinking about someone else, but I do live with another person. I'm in a relationship with someone. Let me just consult with them and see what they're thinking. And I consulted with him. I don't know what happened, to be honest with you. We had a conversation about the job opportunity and it went just as I just told you guys. I got some backlash about why did I want to move? Where did this come from? It's all of a sudden, da 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 da. Okay, but then there was also this, well, it might be a good opportunity for you. Do you know how much money they're going to pay you if they're paying you like significant amount more? Basically what would be the pros and the cons? So I was like, these are good questions. Like I could find out. I mean, I just wanted to know what you were thinking before I even move on to the interviewing process, because number 1, it might not work out. I didn't interview with this team twice already. Number 2, even if it does work out, like I wasn't planning on moving to Houston. Yeah, I'm willing to relocate, but at the time I felt like I didn't know very much about Houston. I would go down there all the time for work, but I really was like in one spot because work would have me so busy while I was there. I felt like it's cool to visit, but I don't know about living there. It just hadn't crossed my mind. So anyway, I found out the answer to my questions. Of course, it was going to be a significant increase, and we had several conversations about moving to Houston. Several. And because it was my idea to move to Houston, I would be relocating for work. I actually worked it out to where I was able to get a relocation bonus on top of a pay increase, right? Just so happened that the apartment complex that I lived in had a sister property in Houston. So I didn't have to get out of my lease. All I had to do was transfer it. I mean, it was like a blessing. It was like easy. It was like an easy transition, right? But I had this guy that I was dating. So we had several conversations. So what that would look like, what is he gonna do when he's down there? He had just found a job in Dallas that he was doing well at. It was like steady, he liked it, the money was good, etc. But I just got here to Dallas. I'm moving here with you. And remember, I was told like several different stories about how he got to Dallas in the first place. At first, it was, well, I'll tell you this. It was always around his ex and his ex-wife. But sometimes the story would be they came together. And sometimes the story was he left after the relationship ended. Sometimes the story was he left after the relationship ended, came here, and then she came here after him and they tried to work it out and it didn't. And so he moved on and she moved on and went back home. And it would just be back and forth. So I never got the truth. All of that could have been a lie. I don't know. But his thing was he moved to Dallas for a relationship before, and that didn't work out. So he was hesitant about doing this and hesitant about picking up his life and making a change for this, right? We had been together for like a year at this point. So many conversations, many conversations. Ultimately, they led into, we're going to relocate to Houston together. The deal was that once I found out how much money I was going to make, it was like a significant amount more. Like it was a significant pay increase. And I got a moving bonus, like a relocation bonus. So that was great. And I got to transfer my lease. So it was like all great, right? It was just money on top of money on top of money is what I felt like, right? I felt like once I figured that out, I was like, I have enough money. It's enough for me to take care of things until you find a job, until you can get on your feet. Like I can handle it. I got it. I got us. Did I want to? Not necessarily, but again, I was laser focused on getting a family, having a child. Like I was desperate. And I'd already wasted a year with this guy. So I'm like, come on. At this point, I had actually been to the doctor. I had fibroids removed. Went to the doctor. I talked to her about, having some difficulty, some challenges with trying to conceive. And she put me on Clomid. So I was taking Clomid to help me ovulate, and I was like actively trying to get pregnant with this guy. And this is something that we had been talking about. So he knew that was going on. We were like actively planning to have a family. So in my head, I was just like ignoring all the other garbage that had been going on, because I was like, well, he has to want a family. Like he told me go to the doctor and see if there's something that I could do. And I told him the doctor said I could take Clomid and start that way, and it will help me with ovulating. And then I can take an ovulation test at home. And then that would be like, let me know this is the time. Like this is the time that we could conceive. So we have to do the things to try to get me to conceive. So we were talking about all this stuff. So in my brain, I was like laser focused on that. So I'm like, yeah, boo, I got it. It's enough. I can handle it. I could do this for a couple months. I'm not trying to get down there and like completely take care of you forever, but I can handle it for a little while, right? And I could. I did. And what ended up happening is I handled it for the whole time we were down there. Ultimately, we decided that's what we were going to do. We were going to move to Houston together. I ended up doing the interview. I got the job. They made arrangements for me to transition, basically. I needed a place to stay. I mapped out a plan, and I mapped out a day that we could drive down and we could apartment shop. And the plan is that we had to decide. Like we had to decide while we were there to agree on something. I had been looking the whole time I was interviewing, because I'm a planner, right? So I had been looking the whole time. When it came time for me to be like, okay, job accepted, now I got to figure this out. Like we needed to move quickly, right? So we had been planning to one Saturday drive down to Houston, go look at apartments, come back same day. It's a 4-hour drive. The night before we were leaving, on his way to the apartment, he made a couple stops, I guess. By the time he got home, it was kind of late. It was dark outside, I remember. He started a fight with me, y'all. And I don't know where it came from, to be honest with you. Like, I don't know why he started arguing with me. I don't know what it was about. It was dumb. But he started an argument with me, like, as soon as he got in the door. He was hot and he was going off. I think what ended up happening is he couldn't find his ID or either his debit card or something, his wallet. He lost it somewhere. Now, I just want y'all to know a sidebar. He would lose his wallet and his keys all the time. And all the time it would be my fault. I'm not nowhere around you, and I don't lose my wallet or my keys, but for some reason, it's my fault you lost your stuff. And now I have to help you tear up the house in the car to find your stuff. And it would happen all the time, right? And he'd be walking around the house cussing and fussing and all this other nonsense. So that's what he was doing. He was like, this might have been the first time, actually. This might have been the first time that he was cussing me out about losing his wallet. And he was telling me that it was my fault, that I was rushing him to get home, and he has to do A, B, C, and D because we're supposed to be going to look at these apartments tomorrow, and it's stupid and it's dumb and it's my idea and he don't want to fucking go anyway. This is the first time I heard him say he didn't want to effing go. And I was like, you don't have to. Just like that. I was like, you don't have to. And that set him off even more. And I was thinking to myself, you just cussed me out. You came in the house starting to fight with me and you cussing me out because you can't find your wallet. You're blaming this on me. I don't even know how we got here. And then you tell me that you don't even want to effing go. I said, you don't have to go. I'm not making you do nothing. You don't have to go with me. You could stay right here. I don't exactly remember what happened after that, but I just remember us arguing a little more for the rest of that night and then not talking to each other. And I remember getting up the next morning and us still really not being on speaking terms, but still taking that trip down the highway to go look at these apartments. And I remember thinking the whole time, I don't need to move with this guy. This is not a good idea. Like, this is actually a bad idea. And I remember thinking to myself, like, how am I gonna do this, right? In my head, I couldn't figure it out. And what's crazy is it was like at that moment, I knew this is not gonna work. There were so many things that happened before that day. So I didn't trust him. And he had already been abusive to me. So I was a little afraid of him. He had been gaslighting me, but I didn't know it at the time. He had been controlling me, but I didn't identify it as that at the time. And there was some manipulation there, but I didn't see that at the time. But I knew I didn't fully trust him. I knew that he hurt me and I didn't like it. And then when he snapped out on me about relocating and he told me he didn't want to go, I knew I should not have moved with him. I, for some reason, could not find the courage and I could not find my voice to say, you don't have to come with me and I don't want you to come with me. And in fact, I'm leaving without you. I couldn't find it. I couldn't figure out how to say it. I felt it in my heart so bad, but I just I couldn't say it. That was the biggest mistake of my life. So I would tell anybody who is in a relationship, a situationship, long-term relationship, a long-distance relationship, a new relationship, if something don't feel right to you, trust your gut. If something's not sitting well with you, trust your instinct. If you're in a situation where you have an opportunity to do something better for yourself and there's something telling you this is not gonna work out. This isn't gonna work out quite like I think it's going to. Trust yourself. Because when I should have left his ass in Dallas right where he was, I kept going. I felt like I was already on that train and I needed to ride it out. I just felt like I was already knee deep in the bullshit. So it can't get worse. Maybe it'll be better if we move. Maybe it'll be a fresh start for us. We actually talked about that. We actually talked about it being a new beginning for both of us in so many ways that didn't have anything to do with our relationship, but then also had to do with our relationship. And it wasn't. Moving to Houston with him was a nightmare on wheels from start to finish. So with that being said, I'm gonna stop right there and I'm gonna invite you guys back for part 3. As always, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and share. And I will see y'all next time. Bye.